Local 183. Layuna. Feel the power.
Hi everyone, this is Beto, and this is Let's Go Home News. What you do today may help you in the future. Help us to protect our children. We have today a very special guest. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, and thank you so very much for joining us on this second episode of Let's Go Home News. As Beto has announced earlier, we have a wonderful guest for you today. But before that, we just want to remind you of where you can find our information, statistics, and related cases to our cause. We believe that information is power, and that by spreading this knowledge and experience, we will be helping prevent and combat the rise of this issue all around the world. Thank you for embarking on this journey alongside us. As part of this introductory video, I would like to present you with our website, where you will be able to find all statistics, testimonies, and articles relating to international parental child abduction. Our website, www.letsgohomenews.org, has reached more than 100,000 clicks, and our posts in our social media accounts have reached more than 200,000 views in quite a few of our posts. Please follow us at Let's Go Home News on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter for our latest content. Please visit us on our website and follow us on social media. And we'll be right back after the break with Tania Marie Da Silva.
Family.
This is our life.
And we are Layuna.
Go Live TV, il primo canale IP interculturale in Canada.
Speaks my language.
Et multiculturel.
Go Live TV es intercultural.
I watch. Oglądam.
What a pleasure to be here at Layuna TV and Go Live.
Olá, sou o cantor Salgadinho, estou na Go Live TV.
Fala a minha língua, é intercultural.
Go Live TV es intercultural.
Go Live TV es intercultural. Yo como tú veo Go Live TV.
Hello guys, welcome back from break, and today we have our very special guest, Tania Marie Da Silva. She is the Clinical Director of Behavior Matters. Tania, thank you so much for being here
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Tell me a little bit about what is Behavior Matters.
So Behavior Matters is a mental health clinic. We work with children, youth, and families. We do individual and family therapy. We do peer support groups, and we also work within the community. Our main focus is obviously mental health, but we put a special focus on developing social skills and emotional regulation in kids.
I notice a deep passion that you have when you speak about working with children. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this field.
So for me, I was actually diagnosed with an anxiety disorder at 16. So I kind of started my own mental health journey at that time. It led me to find just a deep interest in it, and then I decided to go into school for it. And along the way, I realized that having that professional experience as well as personal experience really just helps you understand the clients you work with. So that was kind of it for me.
I wanted to tie this into our issue, which is international parental child abduction. What kind of treatment and what kind of psychological repercussions may these children go through from such an experience?
So it really depends. I mean, whenever we talk about child abduction, I always let families know that child abduction, it's just so broad. There's so many different factors that can go into all of their experiences that every time we see a child that's going through that or has gone through that, there's just such a unique story that comes with all of them. So we always look at that, but just in general, looking at what kind of trauma they might have faced. So typically some of the kids we work with are dealing with abuse, so it could be physical, emotional, sexual, neglect is another one. So those are some of the things that they come in for, as well as sometimes they're just struggling to reintegrate. So maybe they went to a country or a place that they didn't speak the language. The culture was just completely different. So that's something that we're seeing as a psychological effect, where either the integration there was difficult or integration back. So you're seeing that in the social dynamics, the emotional dynamics that they have, the family unit as a whole. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
In terms of anxiety, depression, some of these symptoms, what kind of long-term repercussions may these children experience?
Anxiety is a big one. It typically develops just because of the abduction and the way it usually works, where they're kind of just pulled from everything they know and thrown into something completely different. The anxiety comes up a lot, so you're seeing it in the fear that they have about it happening again, or something else happening, or being pulled from the new situation that they're in, as well as just the general distrust for the people around them. Sometimes the other parent might start telling them stories that now makes them distrust the parent that they left behind. So anxiety is definitely a big one. That also comes with depression. If you feel isolated, that lack of connection, which we all need. So depression and anxiety are a big one for kids that go through abduction.
So obviously there's psychological effects. And in terms of the brain and their personalities, which are still forming at such a young age, what kind of effects can we see in those fields?
Again, depending where they're moved to, but if they're moved to a whole new culture where now they need to learn the language and adjust, that can really add a delay, because if they are now brought back a year later or 2 years later, there's those whole 2 years in the country that they weren't in that they need to make up for. So definitely that's a big one that we're seeing a lot of.
I think you've already answered my next question, but I'll go a little bit more in depth. These children are obviously still very young. Their ideas are still forming, their personalities. How easy is it for a parent to manipulate a children and turn that child against their own parent, against their own family?
It's actually really easy. We see it all the time, especially what I always say is the longer that you're away from that child, the easier it is for them to start believing that story. A lot of the times they don't understand the whole process. So if they're hearing, and we hear all these different things, that either the other parent died, or they left you for someone else, or they don't care about you, or else they would have come to get you, right? So they hear all these stories, or sometimes they create the story about how horrible they were to the mother or father that abducted them. So when you hear that, they might question it, but I mean, if we have a lot of time that's passing in between the abduction and when they're being reunited, those stories can actually start becoming something they believe. And we've seen it where when they are reunited, sometimes that child doesn't want to come back because now they see you in such a different light. So it is a really easy thing to do.
What is it that we can do when we want to acclimate that child to that family member? What kind of procedures does the child go through?
So you mean like when they're being reunited with the family that they were left from? So what I always tell families is usually it's a process, right? Because you need to figure out what country they're in. And so if you know where they are, I always encourage that parent go to that country and start trying to have that relationship and interact with them before they're brought back. Having, like at least getting in contact with them as often as they can, even if it's over the phone or Skype. But you want to try starting that relationship and reinstilling that relationship before they're brought back. But then when they are brought back, it's really realizing that now again there's this transition, this change. So working with a therapist is really helpful so that they can start working through those emotions in a safe place, exposing them to even similar things to what we offer, which is those peer groups, so that they're working on the social and emotional piece, and developing healthy relationships is a really big one. Family therapy is always really important too. So just putting all those things in place that the child's going to need to help them reintegrate. And I always suggest that the parents also find their own therapist as well, because they're processing it's a whole other set of emotions, right?
Yeah, everyone's going through it, right?
Exactly.
In your own professional experience, in your own academic experience, have you ever faced a parental child abduction example, and without revealing identities, obviously, can you tell us a little bit about it?
I've actually experienced a couple. Even in our clinic, we've had a couple different situations come through our door. Like I said, they're all so different that it's so interesting to see how different they are and how it plays out. We've had some families where, again, the child was really young, so the reintegration was a little easier because if they're in between 3 and 5, it's a little easier to reintegrate them. We've also had children that are that young where they're terrified of the parent that's now picking them up and bringing them back, and we've had to do work on that. We've worked with other kids that are maybe in their teens or preteens where they do still have a memory of that parent or that person, so they know that maybe not everything they're hearing is true and they want to come back. But then when they come back, they've also missed those crucial just like learning and developmental stages of here. So now we're seeing the struggle socially, emotionally. That's a big one. We've worked with other families where there's the guilt that comes up about still obviously having love for the mother and the family that maybe they left behind, and obviously loving the father and maybe the new family that's come around as well, right? So there's a lot of back and forth that comes up for these kids around the guilt of, can I have a relationship with both people? So it's honestly, it's very different. There is actually, and I think this is important to note, just depending on who's listening, but there are some situations where maybe a parent has abducted someone because they're worried about what's happening in the home. So sometimes the abduction also happens because there is abuse or there's trauma or there's stuff within the home, and they don't know what else to do other than remove themselves and the child. So I always want to put that out there because I think it's something to be sensitive to, that there are some families that are like, I feel like I had no other choice, right? So we've seen it all.
In terms of the parent that is in this case left behind or is isolated, is there some sort of like agency or some sort of organization that you know that they can reach out to?
So something that we always talk about, and sometimes it's a little late when we're having these conversations, but you have to react right away. So what we always tell families is, even if you suspect it, so sometimes even when families come to us and they're like, we're about to start going through a separation, and those worries start coming up, we'll have this conversation where if you feel like the child was abducted, it's contacting police right away, Interpol, the passport office, to try and get them to put a hold on the passport. Amber Alerts have been super helpful. Contacting lawyers, like getting your custody agreements and stuff in order so you have that to show. So it's acting really quickly and getting all of that organized. We always encourage also contacting the school, your family members, their family members, doing a little audit and thinking about, are they citizens in another country? So maybe we should reach out to that country right away. Also looking at, do they have family in other places that maybe they're visiting? So you have to move quickly, because as soon as they're out of the country, it makes it so much harder because there's other laws and regulations and things that you need to consider. So that's always our first thing is, if it's happening, move as quickly as you can. And once it's in the process, there is an organization, it's actually not coming to me right now what it's called, but it's within the government. If you were to contact them, there's actually a department that deals with child abduction. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but we literally have a department for this. So that's always kind of where we direct families as well.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And in terms of someone who doesn't have your professional experience, who doesn't have your academic experience and training, what can someone do if they suspect that a child has been a victim of such a situation?
Oh, so you mean like if they're in a situation and it just doesn't look right, or the child says something?
Exactly.
So the biggest thing is, again, to bring it to like police officials and take it to the police station. Just let them know why you're suspecting that. That actually is very common, because a lot of the times when children are relocated, there's even some instances where their names are changed and all this stuff happens. So sometimes even for teachers or those professionals that deal with children on a daily basis, it's looking out for those signs. Like, are they letting things slip? Are they talking about their dad or their mom that they're no longer with, or that they can't talk about their past or their childhood, or they miss their siblings? Things like that. Like, look at them, pay attention to them, and then ask more questions. It's similar to our industry. We have duty to report. So if we suspect anything, we have to make the call. So if you suspect, I mean, the call is either going to be true and you're doing something that's helpful, or it's not, and they'll figure it out on their own, right, when they go through their process. So yeah, just definitely making that call and putting it out there.
I think the last question I wanted to ask you is, this is a real situation and it seems to be on the rise, especially with the rise of globalization, social media. The world has shrunk for everyone, right? What advice for someone who works with children, who knows the repercussions that such a situation can have on their development, what would you say to someone to maybe stop them from considering such a situation?
That's actually a really good question, and I like that, because I find a lot of the time we're working on the aftermath, but sometimes when we are in that situation where parents are going through their separation process, we have these conversations where we have to remind them that it's not really about you and how much you hate that other individual, or the negatives that are going on in your divorce or your separation. You also need to make it about your child, right? So thinking about the effects, like with any of us, when we transition into a new job, a new home, whatever it is, it brings on so much stress. So think about your child in that transition where they're losing their home, their friends, their school, their family. It is so stressful, and it causes, honestly, just really detrimental effects to them overall on their mental health. That's something to consider. Think of the other options. What else can you do? Maybe getting a mediator to help you guys figure out custody or whatever it might be. But just really thinking about what are the other options, what are other things we can do before we decide to kind of upheal their life. But also it disturbs the parent's life too. So you're starting all over again too, right? So it's just thinking that there are better options out there.
Perfect. Tania, it's been a pleasure having you here. I really want to thank you so very much for your time and your attention to us, our show and our organization. If you want to, of course, thank you. And if you want to let everyone know where they can find your services and you know, an invite to Behavior Matters, that would be great.
So we can actually be found at www.behaviormatters.ca, or you can send us an email at info@behaviormatters.ca.
We hope you found this edition of Let's Go Home News helpful in understanding our organization, our goal, and this issue that we are trying to tackle. Please refer to our website for any news or content relating to this issue. Thank you for being with us today, and I certainly hope to see you in our next edition of Let's Go Home News.